All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's get started. Today, I wanted to kind of revisit a topic that we hadn't talked about as a group in a while. And it's something that I think is very good to revisit every once in a while. And that is these two things: your ideal weekly schedule and your daily activity record. I know that we post these on Fridays. I know that we talk about them on Fridays. Who is actually taking the time to make one of these for every day of the week, to input their ideal weekly schedule on the left side, and then to track your activity by day on the right hand side to see if you're actually holding yourself accountable to what you said you wanted to do? And just real quick, there's a lot of us, so please mute if you're not talking, because I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Well, I'll be honest with you and tell you that I don't.
Okay.
I do have a loose schedule that I try to stick to, but all it really takes is one person to say, "Hey, I'd like to meet at 11 o'clock to get coffee and learn about buying a house," and that can throw the whole thing out of whack. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I do have a pretty good schedule that I stick to. But again, if I got the opportunity to get in front of somebody, I'll redo the whole day to get to where I need to be. One thing I am not good about sometimes, though, and I think this may resonate with a lot of people, is the first thing to go if I have to redo my schedule is the prospecting blocks, which is not smart. I know that's a problem that always catches up with you, but that's me being transparent.
Well, I appreciate the transparency. It's important. I think looking at it from that perspective, when you fail to prospect because you've got something else going on, to put it in terms that we can relate to, hopefully, it's like building a house. So it's like hanging the drywall before you're done with the foundation, right? To kind of make sense. Without that foundation, the rest of it is eventually going to fall apart, right? So the important thing is if you recognize that something is going to take the place of something else you should be doing, when are you going to find time in your schedule to replace it? Do you have that flexibility? Do you have that flex time built in? Are you taking good enough care of your schedule to understand that, okay, if I'm supposed to prospect on Tuesday mornings, but I get an A buyer who's ready to make something happen right now, I can still get my prospecting in later because I have time blocked for appointments on Wednesday afternoon and I currently don't have anything booked. Are you looking at it that way? Because if you're not managing it actively and looking at it and tracking it, then there's no way to be sure that you're doing what you said you're going to do. And again, with all this stuff, is just like the reason we review the activity on the right-hand side. It's, these are goals that you've set for yourself that you want to achieve, small micro goals to help you achieve your major goal overall, right? So, but your schedule is just as important as numbers of appointments or buyer agency, because it's the same thing. It all leads to it. So Brandon, since you were disclosing kind of yours, just give us an idea kind of day by day as to what your ideal weekly schedule looks like compared to this, very basic one that I share with everybody when they start. This is the one from the resources page, kind of the template to use.
Give me just a second and I'll pull mine up.
Okay. Well, that's a big step, right? That's the first thing. Who could pull those up right now if they had to?
Well, I have OCD, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've got it somewhere. Give me just a second.
So while you're doing that, let me just say to everybody, I want you to make it a goal before next week to make sure that you can access your ideal weekly schedule at the drop of a hat. And if you can't access it within 2 or 3 minutes, then make sure you can going forward and print out a copy of it and put it on your desk at home and put it on your desk in the office. So you keep it in your line of sight.
So I'm sorry, Doug, what was your question again?
Just kind of tell us what yours looks like compared to the template one.
Right. So I block off, I actually need to update mine, but you know, I go to the gym at 5 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That allows me to make sure I'm getting in the office on Monday morning. Most Monday mornings, not every Monday, but most. I try to do a lot of my office work in the morning. I really don't like calling people on the phone before really 11. Definitely not before 10, unless it's like a boomtown lead or something that just comes in immediately in the morning. I just don't think people, based on my experience, really care to talk about this the first thing in the morning. So my afternoon, typically the 1:30, typically the 2:30 to 5:30 are typically heavy on prospecting or appointments. And I pretty much have on mine, you know, if I have most of my prospecting stuff as appointment / prospecting. So the reason I do that is because if I'm not with somebody or in front of somebody, I should be prospecting, right? Theoretically, you should be trying to get somebody in with you if you're not in front of somebody. So that's how mine is kind of different. You know, I don't do, this has office work late in the day. The template, mine is again in the morning. I try to do all the due diligence office stuff in the morning, and then after 11, pretty much every day for me is appointments and prospecting.
And that's a good point as far as look at it and saying that you need to update it. I need to update the template to reflect, you know, kind of make sure that it's in line with exactly what we're doing as a team, maybe a little bit more because of the way we've shifted goals to Monday and the accountability. So there's some accountability for myself to get in here and edit that. I like the office work piece in the morning too, because a lot of times you get contracts in the evening, and in the morning you want to get things submitted to the closing manager, get things to the attorney and the lender. I also agree that period, I don't like to work much at all before like 10 o'clock, but I definitely don't like to be on the phone before then. And I agree with Brandon's kind of assessment that most people don't either, unless like it's a lead that comes in right away. I'll call, or if it's somebody that came in overnight that I shot a quick email or text and said, hey, thanks for registering on my website. It's kind of late. Typically I call right away, but I don't want to call given this hour unless you'd like to speak now. I'll give you a call at 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and just set that expectation. Anybody else kind of want to share how they've been handling theirs and maybe how it's changed since you initially did it to begin with? Because I really suggest it's something you revisit kind of on a quarterly basis. It's a good idea.
I have a more of a question. Sorry, I just got, my phone died. Something's up with my charger. Anyways, I think, I don't know. I'm interested to know how it was like a year or two ago, just because like I find that if I have an A buyer, they text me like, I need to go see this house. Like I have to pretty much jump, you know, to go see it with them because we might miss it. And then if they want to make an offer, then I end up spending like the rest of the evening figuring out, you know, all the offer situation. And then, I mean, granted, I have the possibility of getting a contract out of it, but then whatever else prospecting that I had planned just kind of goes out the window for that day. I don't know how y'all kind of
True. Your
work
priority
with that.
yeah.
Who
Well,
was
there's
Anytime
really
you-
no way to combat that. It's
Exactly.
prioritization. If you have, you know, obviously a contract is what we're all doing this for. So, you know, sometimes you gotta put it to the side, but then you just maybe have to double it the next day or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, in my opinion, Nate's right. You know, and this is something that, you know, to your point about what did it look like a year ago, you know, Krista is probably, you know, her ideal weekly schedule has changed immensely because she's got 3 kids at home doing virtual learning. So, you know, her stuff has kind of been turned upside down. You have to adjust on the fly given what's going on in your life and given what's going on in your business. And Meredith, yeah, if you've got an A who's ready to go, well, you're trying to get a deal. The key is to, you know, when you do an ideal weekly schedule, especially when you're first getting started, to make sure you have those times built in. So, yeah, you've got appointments and prospecting windows every single day. If you've got to drop everything and go show a house, you'll try to get your prospecting done as much as you can that day. But if you don't, you realize that you've got a sizable window the next day, and you just work that much harder. You know, you just stay laser focused, and it's not just calling to get rid of the to-dos. It's calling to get whatever your appointment is or whatever your goal is, whether that's I'm going to call until I get an appointment or 2 appointments or repeat showing or whatever. You just got to have those windows built in so that you're holding yourself accountable to make sure that if you don't make up for it, you're at least doing all you can to make sure you don't fall further behind. And it will get more challenging for you the longer you're in the business, because you'll get to a point where you've got 4 to 7 homes under due diligence. You'll have inspections, you'll have repair requests, you'll have to get quotes for repairs, and you're going to have to fit all that due diligence work into it as well. So you'll make adjustments. Certainly, to Nate's point, a lot of it has to do with prioritizing.
My ideal weekly schedule is not Bible, Meredith. I mean, I can't follow it to a T. I think it's a good template to have to remind me, like, I need to do these things. Do I look at it daily? No. Should I get better at it? Probably. But I mean, real estate is real estate. It moves fast. Life happens, and you just have to do the best you can and make sure you're just prioritizing. Contracts obviously come before, you know, prospecting. Unfortunately, you just have to make sure you get your prospecting in somewhere.
Felicia makes a really great point. And again, it's just kind of about flip-flopping things, because unless you're showing homes, okay, so look at it this way. If you end up showing homes 5 days a week during the time that you have set for prospecting, then you should probably take a step back and look at your ideal weekly schedule and realize that should be an appointment time and not a prospecting time. So figure out a different time to prospect. The other part of it is going to be, Meredith, and not for nothing, is the longer you do this, the better you're going to get at that offer to purchase piece. And instead of it taking you an hour, it's going to take you 20 minutes. And that will come with time.
I can say this too for me. It's kind of like my first time in this situation, but I've heard everybody talk about it before, where I had like 3 kind of back to back to back, and I was so busy. And now I'm at a lull with my prospecting. I've pushed it to the side. So now I'm trying to scramble for new clients.
And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid. But the thing is, if you're not actively looking at your ideal weekly schedule and then comparing it to what you're doing day by day, you might not realize it until you get all your pipeline under contract, and then crickets.
So Doug, let me speak to that point really quickly, because I think it's especially important for some of the newer people to hear. I have a closing today, and after today, I'll have 9. I'll have 9 pending. Of those 9, either 6 or 7 are new construction, right? So that's great, but I would like to get paid again before July. So the problem is that I've got 2 A's, but they're both looking in Fuquay-Varina, and every house sells $30,000 above list price, and they can't make up that difference. So I can't count on when I'm going to write them, right? So I need to create some more A's, right? But when you get so busy in due diligence, and like I said, personally, the first thing for me to go is the prospecting. Yeah, I've got 2 A's, but I have no idea when I'm going to write them because of their financial ability, and the places that they're looking are extremely competitive. I need to get some more fucking A's. And if I'm not making calls to book appointments, that's going to be really difficult to do. So it is really easy to screw yourself. You can think, wow, I got all these pending contracts. That's great, but they don't close for a very long time. And like I said, I would like to get paid before the summer. So that is one example of why it is so important. And I'm saying this as much for your benefit as I am for myself, to hold myself accountable. You have just simply got to figure out a way to make sure you're making your calls regularly.
I feel like I'm in the same exact boat, Brandon. And you get, like I said, I got like 8 or 9 pending, but half that crap's not closing till July, August. But then, you know, something that's closing sooner that is a huge fire you got to deal with takes up, 2, 3, 4 days. And then you're like, shit, I haven't called these people in my pipeline that are going to be ready in a couple months or whatever. And then, you lose them. So I'm with you. Completely agree.
that struggle is definitely real. I think one important thing when talking about prospecting that I am trying to do a lot more of is, of course, Boomtown is prospecting, but there's other ways to prospect besides just Boomtown that I am noticing that sometimes I get a little bit more return on my time of investment, which is nurturing your past clients. That only really works for us that have been in the business for, you know, a couple of years, but them talking to your past clients and your sphere. Don't forget about social media and building time into your schedule to post on social media. I've not been the best at this lately, but I'm trying to get better. But I think that makes a huge difference in nurturing your past clients and your friends, because in this crazy market, we're going to get a lot of referrals from people who trust us because the market is nuts, right? So I think that's important. And one more thing that I build into my schedule now because of the way that the market is studying the market. My thing, first thing in the morning before our meetings usually is I'll get on, and I know a lot of us are like this, we're trying to find things for our clients, but studying like what new homes just hit the market, what's in this price point that's available today that wasn't there yesterday, what's incoming soon, so that we can have other options for our clients. But that's it.
I would say for me, like in terms of trying to make my schedule, you know, I know some people, they do this whole spreadsheet and you write it all out. It's just about time management. You know, I have a couple of items that I know I need to do every single day. And like, if it's working out or, you know, making sure I get to my to-dos, I just block those out. And the thing is, just like kind of everybody's echoed, is that things will change. So you have to kind of flex your schedule and realize that as long as you know what you need to do, you know, you just figure out a way to get it done. I don't really write it down anymore. Like back when I first started doing stuff I did, but now I feel like that just ends up taking more time to try to track and build it. But if you're first starting out, it could be beneficial.
And that's who it's aimed at until you really learn it, right? I mean, if you get to the point, you know, honestly, does, you know, anybody producing 30 plus necessarily need to track this? Well, you might think no, but you might also see why, if they do, they're successful. But to Charles's point, the overall point is making sure you get it done, right? Knowing what you need to do and getting it done. The problem is if you can't remember very well what you need to get done, and if you're getting it done, then writing it down can help you out. Just depends on how you think, really. That's a really good point. Because at the end of the day, that's the baseline. Knowing what you said you need to get done and then making sure that you're paying attention and you get it done.
Yeah. And if you realize that you're not accomplishing your goals, like break it out every hour or every half hour, just like this, and like see what you're doing. Like I know when I first started working for myself a long time ago, I realized there was way too much time spent on the phone doing things that were not productive. And I just cut those items out. And once you kind of start to set that good habit, you'll be able to continue it.
Absolutely.
Also, I think that the times that you have blocked, that you have for family, personal time, mental health, whatever, it is so important that you get those, because you will get burnt out so fast. And if you are burnt out and you are trying to prospect, you are not prospecting. Like Doug always says, you are checking boxes. And if you are just checking boxes, you are not progressing, you are not building your wave. So if you have time blocked for a certain reason, then take that time. Don't feel guilty about it. Put your phone down. Spend time with your kids, spend time with your family, spend time with your husband, go get your nails done, get your hair done. You know, it's so important to take that time too. We get so caught up in work and getting stuff done. Like, you need to take a break.
100,000%, Felicia. That is so important. And you'll see there's as much blue, if not more, on this than there is other colors, right? It's important to have that balance. The thing that you need to be cognizant of is you got to be flexible sometime too. What you also need to be in control of is that you're not reacting like it's a 4-alarm fire to every request that you get. So you're not running all over God's creation for people who aren't ready, approved, committed, those type of things.
I think that's a really good point that Doug just said there. And once you've been in the business for a little while, and you've gotten some deals under you, you're able to judge like who's serious and who's just wasting your time, and realize the response that you need to take to it. Especially for anybody new, it's like that first person you get on the phone and they're like, oh yeah, I want to see these 20 houses. And you're like, I got to run, I got to do it. That same conversation that I would have had with that person like 2 years ago, where I was like, yep, we're going to go run out and look at these, is now completely different. And it's of, well, are you pre-approved? Are you ready? Because this is what the market is. And I think having those conversations over time as you learn more makes your time management better, because you're not, just like Doug said, running around all over the place being reactive to things. You're being proactive in those initial conversations. And that just takes time.
Right, Charles, that it takes time and it takes confidence. I would say, if your prospecting dips, and you only have a small window to get stuff in, think about strategically what are the most important things. If you have a to-do for an A or a B or a C that you're close to meeting an appointment with, make sure you call those people. Who is in your now, right? People that are in your now on your Boomtown, they are warm bodies looking at a website on the other end of the computer. Call them. If you have a message, if someone has sent you a showing request or a text or an email, reply to those people. If you have to be judicious with your prospecting because you've gotten busy elsewhere in your business, prioritize the people that you call. You don't have to call an archive if you've got 2 Bs that have reached out to you, right? Just be smart. And always the nows are who we need to prioritize every time you log into your Boomtown. The nows are more important than any to-do, right? So just be smart about that.
Okay, so a lot of really great points there. This is how you do that if you're not doing it. When you have your hot nurture watch and you're adding to-dos in there, right? And you go to check your past due and your to-dos for the day, you come up here and you click on this and you say, okay, here are my to-dos. Do your to-dos look like this so you can get through them quick and know why you need to reach out to Louisa to see what her plan is for 2021? Is she paid off her car? Or does your plan look like this? Why the hell am I calling Gerard? I have no idea. Now, maybe that's a drip and there's nothing set for it. But if you're setting to-dos on your own, it should not be blank, because then you have to click on Gerard, go in and look at Gerard and see why you're calling Gerard. With Leslie, hey, she's still considering Holly Springs. Can I help her? With Shirley, hey, checking in. You still coming down to North Carolina? Still trying to sell your home later this year? If you're not taking advantage of this, you're costing yourself time. You're making it harder on yourself. So make sure when you go in and you set those to-dos, you're entering a little note in that box below it. So when you go to look at your to-dos, you know why you're calling without clicking on their name. Is that unfamiliar to anybody? This is kind of the, how I preach about being really efficient with your time. It's hard to be efficient if you got to make 3 extra clicks and stroll through the history before you call somebody. You need these reminders so you know why you're reaching out.
Something I'll do as well on like the notes section for where you put the info on the people, like where you can put stuff in. If there's something going on, like it's funny because I think Luis is one of mine, but I'll go in and put whatever is those important bullet items that I need to talk with them about. So when I go actually and I click into their file, and then I'll see like, okay, this is what we need to talk about, this, and this. Any items that like houses they may have looked at, or like past things that I want to try to bring up in a conversation. Like if somebody's like, oh, well, I'm looking for my daughter and she's a nurse, right? But she's not going to be there for a year. Okay, cool. I'll put that for 3 months out, right? Hit them up, be like, hey, how's everything going with your daughter? Did she get a new job at a hospital down here? Just to kind of be able to build that rapport, like right then and there, hit that bullet, and then try to move the ball down the field.
That is absolutely textbook.
One thing that I did too is if I get someone talking, I'll put LP Mammal up in the box and then just fill it out as we go.
I've done that before too, Nate. I think that's a great idea for anybody not understanding what he's saying. He'll actually type out LPMAL and then hyphen and then put an answer when he gets it there. So you don't have to go through all of this to revisit your conversations with them. You've got it right here at the top. Great idea. Love that. Any other thoughts, suggestions? How else are you using this to really make your effort more efficient, save you some time?
The vitals tab. So I started to use that more. So what I'll do on the vitals tab is I'll use the bulk text or the bulk email function. So if you click on that, and I don't remember which one it is, but it's like the ones that are like the pending options or something. It's like people that you should contact, maybe high activity leads. There you go. That one.
High activity. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't remember. I don't remember what it was, but I'll click on that and I'll just like click on high activity leads, see them all, and then do a bulk function unless it's somebody like particular that I know is doing nothing. Then I'll just click them off. But otherwise I'll bulk blast out like an email or a text or, just pick one of the ones and use it. So yeah.
And that's a great segue, real quick, Brandon. That's a great segue for another best practice I want to have is to take a deeper dive into this vital, because several of you are checking this on a regular basis, but I feel like we haven't explored it as a group. And I think it's another opportunity that we can look at to help you maximize your time in Boomtown. So I'm going to add that to the list for next Thursday.
High activity is a great
I've never
way.
seen that.
Yeah, that's why we should talk about it, because it's a great tool for we haven't really done a good job about making sure people are aware of it, but it is relatively newer. But high activity, Nate, and everyone else, is a great tool for you within your Boomtown to go and find people that are on your site regularly and or recently that you may not be aware of, right? So not everyone who's on the site always pops up in your now, especially if you've like dismissed them or hid them for whatever reason. You can do that in your now. They'll still show up in your high activity lead. So it's a great way to reach out. Hey, I saw you were recently on the site. Are you still thinking about, or you told me you were no longer looking, but I see you're on my site every single day. What's going on? It's just a great touch point to make sure that you're able to find out who is active regularly on your site.
Anybody else? We'll also talk about this because we usually don't exist below 90. And we've taken a little bit of a dip. And this is just about being responsive and speed to lead and then following up the people that pop up. So we'll talk about that more next week. But just to feel like you get a little bit better lay of the land, you might want to come into reporting and go to your vitals. Everybody has access to their own that you can go in and look at.
But the speed to response, that still factors in, like if they call at 1 o'clock in the morning and then you don't call them until 9, then it's a 8-hour gap, correct?
Well, there are ways that you can sort based on time frame.
Yeah, like the overall time frame, but not like the time that they signed up is what I'm saying. Like sometimes I've noticed that where if you change it to like a 1 week period and all your leads came in at 3 o'clock in the morning, your speed to lead is like way down.
Yep. This also has to do with, are you manually entering your calls when you're prospecting? Because if you're calling people and not tracking it, we get a 28% response rate or something like that for our calls made. So make sure that you're tracking when you do that. 30% of actually talking to people isn't bad. That's pretty good, but make sure you're tracking it so we get actual responses. Any other thoughts about the ideal weekly schedule or the DAR? So both of these are available on the agent resources page. I'm going to go in and slightly tweak the ideal weekly schedule. If you're struggling with your accountability and holding true to your ideal weekly schedule, I would print 7 DARs, one for every day of the week, literally copy your ideal weekly schedule for that day and put it here. And then this is what I used to do. I would scan all 7 and then I would print a month at a time. And at the beginning of the next month, I would print the next month and I'd put them in my binder or on my clipboard. And every day on the right side, I'm tracking what I'm doing and I'm comparing it to what I'm doing on the left-hand side. And on the far right-hand side, I'm entering my activity for the day. I'm tracking my calls at the top, and then you can enter it in CSU at the end of the day. And that'll help you if you're struggling with living your schedule the way you want to and being able to prospect and follow up with folks the way you want to. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas, suggestions?
I'm just curious, when people are prospecting, how many people, as they're prospecting in their boomtown, have a tab right next to or close to it for CSU where they log their calls as soon as they make it in boomtown?
I've been better at that lately, Brandon, the last couple of months.
When I hit-
Otherwise, you'll forget to do it later.
Yeah, and that's why I do it, Adam. Obviously, you don't have to do it, but I know myself, and I'm not good at, like, I will miscalculate my minutes, or I won't keep track of the calls. And sometimes, I'll make a call on the phone or in the car, I'll forget to log it in CSU. So I do that to try to help me make sure my numbers are more accurate. But I realize that's not going to work for everybody. I was just kind of curious to see if
The worst thing to do is
Notepad beside me, just logging who I talked to and how many calls I made. But doing it like you just said is better, because that way you're not going to mess it up.
I was just gonna say, is the worst thing to do is to be like, shit, I didn't record any of my stuff for the week. And like before Friday, you're like going back through your call history and, matching the numbers to Boomtown. I'm going to be completely honest. I've had to do that a couple times, but I try to have this right in front of me and like mark my stuff and then immediately put it in CSU day by day.
right.
So
Yeah, I
anybody
would-
who sees
Day.
my, sorry, somebody's talking.
No, I just wait till the end of the day because I always have my sheet like every day on me, and then I will have a blocked out time for like an hour, but then it never fails. I leave and I'm in the car and someone calls me or I make another phone call. So, and then I just wait until the end of the day because I will forget to log certain calls if I do it throughout the day.
What I
think
do is I'll
this
just
goes
open
to
up.
show, this just goes to show that there's not one set way for everybody to do it, right? You've got 3 different people doing it slightly different ways. So it's just a matter of finding what works best for you. I'm sorry, Charles.
Yeah, what I'll do is I just open up like 10 tabs in Boomtown. So like if I've got 20 to-dos, I'll open up 10 of them and CSU will be at the very end. And I'll just start down the line, start making the call. If it's just, a qualifier or something, I leave a message, I mark it. When I hit the close button on that tab, it pulls the CSU right up and I just put one, click to the next screen, and I just do that. And it's kind of like a good way to help to keep me on track and make it so it's not too overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, almost like that kind of like reward mechanism in your brain where, I knocked out those 10. So I see all the tabs go away and then I refresh the Boomtown screen and it goes from 30 to-dos to 20. And I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do the next 10. And, it's a way to help keep yourself on track, keep yourself motivated, and just keep everything right in front of you.
I have a really hard time prospecting not in front of a computer. Like I can't do that because I want to, look at the property and pull it up in MLS if I have to, and all that stuff. I have a hard time. Like if I'm in showings or whatever, I'll turn my leads off. So I'm like, by the time I get home, like shit, it's been 7 hours and I got a new lead while I was out in showings and now I haven't called them. And I don't know. I just feel like I am only proactive and efficient when I'm prospecting in front of the computer. Like I can't do it in the car or anything like that.
That's
Well,
great
I-
accountability to me, and I appreciate that you do that.
Are driving and prospecting, swerving, and then people like honk their horn at me.
Yeah. I don't know how you would, I never would prospect unless I'm right in front of my computer. I can look at their screen. I can look at the houses they've been looking at. Otherwise, you're not prospecting with intent. You're just checking boxes. You're not looking at what they're doing. You're not reading through their stuff. Charles, I love what you said. I was the exact same way. I would open up my to-dos. I would read through the ones that I had the most important notes on the screen there that we talked about, and I'd open 10 tabs at a time. And then it was like, boom, 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 work through those, track those, refresh. Thank the Lord. I made some progress. It's like getting through a set, right? And then you you put 10 more up there and then you count those bastards down and do it again. I mean, that's a great way to do it. That also allows you to prioritize it, right? Because you look at those notes and yeah, I've got 40 to-dos, but I can read through them real quick. And these are the ones I should really start with because, man, I actually should, this one's past due. I actually should have called them 2 days ago to ask them about their daughter's job or whatever, something like that. So make sure you're putting in good notes so you can get out good notes so you can prospect with intent and be really efficient with it. Okay, I feel like we've really gotten into this really good today. I hope that, I mean, it's kind of like the circle of life. Why we do one thing connects all the way back around to the beginning after a while, the whole lead life cycle and things like that. So please give this some thought. If you haven't revisited this for yourself in a while, please do it. I encourage you to be tracking this if you're not doing it. And especially if you feel like you're not accomplishing what you're set out to accomplish and you're struggling keeping up with your clients and your prospecting and leads and all of that stuff. And next week on Thursday, we will talk about vitals, etc. Any other thoughts?
One other quick point. Since we all drive cars everywhere and everybody puts a lot of miles on, if you are not doing this, maybe you're not mechanically inclined, that's fine. But take at least an hour a month to just go over your car, whether it's cleaning your car, checking oil, checking stuff. If you don't know how to do any of that stuff, bring it somewhere. Just that routine maintenance, just like you have to do on yourself physically, do it on the thing that allows you to make money. Because the last thing that you want to do is be sitting there and you have no vehicle and you can't go show houses. Just do that routine maintenance. It makes a really big difference.
Are you talking to me, Charles? Are you talking to me?
No,
you
because I literally was just doing all kinds of stuff on my vehicles
right
yesterday.
now.
But
Charles is that's just who Charles is. That's the kind of stuff he does all the time. He's just sharing his general
I'm just kidding.
experience.
yeah, I would definitely just, if you can, just block out, if it's an hour a month, just do it. I promise you that you won't realize the dividends it'll pay until you're not doing it. And then maybe you're in that position where your car's in the shop.
Charles is the office Mr. Goodwrench for those of y'all who are
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I think this was a great call. I hope it was helpful and gives you some things to think about to help with your day-to-day and make you more efficient and more productive and also give you more time to do what you want to do. Hope everybody has a great day. I'll be talking to some of you in a little bit. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.